Welcome to the podcast, the Faith in Podcast. This is your host, Aaquib Jaleel, and today I am talking with Bhargav Prasad.
Hi, studio audience.
Studio audience, yay! I don't know why you're acting out for anybody. But anyway, before we begin, roll the intro! Welcome to the Faith in Podcast. So, hi Bhargav, how are you doing?
Hi,
man? How are you
Jaleel
doing?
Aaquib.
Jaleel Aaquib.
That's your Instagram handle. I just saw that.
Oh, thanks. Jaleel
Yeah.
Aaquib in the house.
Yes.
And
is Aaquib Jaleel your father?
so, this is the sort of comedy you will be listening to today. It's not really comedy, but he keeps telling us that.
That's because comedy is subjective.
And that's what we
One
keep telling
person's
us.
trash is another person's trash.
Okay, so Bhargav, before we talk a little more about comedy and all of that amazing stuff, tell a little bit about yourself.
So, I'm a man. I'm an engineer. I'm unemployed. I mean, I freelance. Okay. Jokes apart, I'm a freelance writer. I write web series. I write a column for the New Indian Express. I also write sketches for YouTube. I also do stand up, and I also consider myself a closet poet. Also
You
do
call it, wait, a what?
a closet poet. Like I do spoken word every now and then.
Okay.
When there's nobody I know who's around, like in these weird open mics, spoken word open mics.
Okay, like open sky slam.
Yeah, not open sky, also like mockingbird.
Oh, even.
Yeah,
oh,
in
even
your
more
office, I
underground.
remember performing in your office once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
For one of the Mockingbirds events.
Oh, wait. I remember this.
Yeah.
Okay, you did do. Did
Yeah.
you do a spoken word then?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. I did not know about this. That you were a
meta
spoken word.
word.
Meta spoken word. Okay, so Bhargav, me and you have been part of the scene for quite some time.
Yes, 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
It's like 97% of the scene.
Yeah, and we've been good friends, and I think
Sure.
that we always.
Cool.
At least that's what I keep. I have to tell myself because I'm not sure with you.
Yeah, neither am I.
Uh,
I'm sort of a little
off
loose.
in the
Yeah,
head.
loose.
No, but
Yeah.
so Bhargav, me and you have very different styles of comedy, and I think
True.
because I consider myself as a storyteller,
Yes.
and I like to elaborate a lot and use characters and things like that.
Yes.
But what about you? What do you think your style is?
Please don't ask this question. I cannot. Okay, if I have to break down my style of comedy, it's breaking down comedy. At best, I can. At least that's what I like to think I'm doing.
Okay.
That's-
But let's try to actually break this down.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
when you're talking about your style of breaking things down,
Yeah.
what does that exactly entail and what does that mean?
See, the thing is, again, I'm gonna use slightly abstract terms, like, and sound pretentious every now and then.
Okay, that's fine.
Like, what comedy is? It's a modern form of art, which is just you tell a joke.
Yeah.
Whereas postmodernism is you take the medium itself and you use it as an art form itself. So when you take, I know it's like, for example, modern art, a brick is a brick, whereas in postmodern art, a brick could be anything, whatever you want it to be.
Wow.
Right, that's the simplest definition of postmodern art. And for me, when you take a joke, I don't like to just tell a joke. I want to know why the joke is a joke or why something is funny rather than just telling something funny. That's how I've always been.
So,
I mean
but
it
see,
like
this is a very strange concept about comedy because a lot of times whenever people say that the minute you start explaining a joke, that's when the joke dies.
Yes,
They say that a lot.
I know that's true.
But you have basically said no.
Yeah, that's.
I can break this down and just make it funnier, right?
I think that's a fuck all analogy. Like I don't know who's. Can I say?
Yeah.
Can I
of
say
course.
all here?
You can use any language. The 7 bad words. Let's go for it. Let's do this shit.
I know only like 3 of them. So
Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker,
the other one.
and the other one.
Yeah. Where was I? What are we talking about?
We were talking about Travis.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we were talking about breaking down comedy.
Breaking down, yes.
Yeah, and why
Yes,
that
the analogy
is fuck all.
Because honestly, well, for example, one of my biggest inspirations is Stuart Lee. Okay,
Okay.
he's a comedy legend from the UK whose jokes only who thrives on the fact that he breaks down jokes. Like he literally explains jokes and makes them hilarious. Like he's a comic genius to almost all comics around the world. Check out Stuart Lee if you haven't.
You know
He's
that,
like an
listeners. Okay.
amazing comedian. And the thing, yeah, that's what. So when somebody can take something and make it funnier, why? Like for example, if you had to see a painting
Hmm.
of somebody painting,
Hmm.
would you not call that a painting?
Yeah, I would call that a painting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or for example, movies about movies.
Okay.
Or movies made about being making movies.
Okay.
That's still a movie.
It's still a movie, yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know why in comedy only you have to be funny or it has to be a joke in the
No,
most
see.
primitive sense.
This concept of being funny, first of all,
Okay.
is what is one of the reasons why comedians start. Like, I think the reason that any of us had started was we like the idea of a laugh, right?
Not for me. For
Really?
me, I started because I wanted to see how far I can take like write a joke. For me, it's never about performing, or for me, it's never about. I mean, right now it is. When I started out, I was like, I want to write this, and I can see if I want to see if people can laugh at this.
So
I mean, not
you never
funny.
got into the field of comedy for the performance.
No.
That is again very
Right
strange.
now,
Right now you are,
right now
but
I'm yeah.
so before we talk a little more about the style and things like that, tell us about your first time up on stage and you performing, and where
First
was it,
time.
if you remember?
Yeah, I don't know if you were there, but it was at the brew room in Besanagar.
Okay.
And I had seen this, I think a couple of weeks back, Sham and all had started performing, all of you, and I'd been a regular at open mics as an audience member.
Okay.
And I saw this Varun Grover interview where he was talking about how he started doing comedy for the first time. He was like, I used to write for the show, Farhan Akhtar show or something, and he was like, when people can perform my shitty jokes, I feel like I can perform my own shitty jokes. So I was like, yeah, why not? I write all the time. I'm gonna write and do something. And the first time was being hosted by Baggy at the brew room in Besanagar. And
Wait. Oh, I remember
and
you.
I was nervous as fuck. I went on stage, I just memorized the 4 minutes, just blabbered everything out. I got a few laughs. And then Baggy came up and he's like, if you've named yourself Bhargav, you're definitely funny. And I was like, yes, I know what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Because of one
Yeah.
one
But then
comedian
every
of
other
yours.
open mic after that for the next 4 months I was bombing. I kept bombing.
So the reason you started was because you wanted to write the joke and you
I
just
wanted to write jokes.
you
Yes.
wanted to write jokes.
Jokes.
So do you consider yourself as a writer first?
Yes, I'm always a writer more than anything, I think. I'm
You're
not a performer in any sense. What you guys do, I'm envious as fuck, because you guys can just go on stage, even if you haven't written anything, you can still do something with it. I can't do that, which is why I'm envious of people who can perform, like Jagan or Sham or you or whoever.
He said nice things about me. See, this is why he's on the podcast also.
Yay!
Friendship.
Uh,
How are you like starting to define yourself through your comedy then? Like, is it you trying to? I know it sounds pretentious. I know
no,
it
it's
sounds.
not pretentious. I'm just 2 years old in comedy. I really can't answer
Like,
that.
see, this is what annoys me about when people start comedy.
Okay.
I get it. I get the idea that we're new to the scene, but why is it that you have to have these many years of experience to talk about what you think right now? It's important to talk about what you think right
It
now, because a lot of the times, otherwise, all you're going to hear is the experienced comic saying two things. He will say, "Go for an open mic, fucking do jokes." Yeah, we know, but some more info, brother. So
Yeah.
that's why I want to keep asking this question, and I want everyone who comes on the podcast to understand that you are a comedian, that you are telling
Yeah,
jokes.
that's true.
So why the fuck shouldn't you say all of these things?
I guess that's fair. Just that I've been discovering the kind of comedy that I like, and for the first 1 year, I don't think I was even decent to go on stage because I was just doing shit. Because only now I'm discovering what kind of comedy I like and what I want to do for at least the next few years, which is why I'm finding it hard to define what, because I myself can't define what I want to do, which
Okay.
is why I find it hard to define to other people.
Okay, so it's still sort of a journey for you
Yes.
to figure out what it is that you are, that who you are
As
as a
a
person,
comic.
as a
As a
comic.
comic, because with your case and a lot of and a few people here and there, you're great storytellers, you're natural storytellers, you've always been like that. When you go on stage, you just tell great stories. For me, I've never been able to. I've tried telling stories, but I've always failed.
But
And I feel any form of art needs to be about storytelling in some sense or the other.
Okay.
Right? It has to tell a story about something or someone, or it has to provide an insight. It can't just be, I don't know.
Like it can't just be
There needs
memes.
to be, yeah, there
It
needs to
can't
be a
just be memes.
narrative.
It has to be. It has to have a narrative.
Narrative, yes.
It has to make sense.
True.
So, this is another thing that we need to talk about when we think of comedy.
Okay.
At least that's what I believe we should talk about, is that how we perceive it.
Okay.
And a lot of the like right now the current perception of comedy, I feel, is skewed.
Okay.
A lot of times whenever I see someone, like, who can I say? Like, for example, your puppet set. Okay,
Okay.
let's take your puppet set. I think it's brilliant. I
Okay. Thank
fucking
you.
laugh my ass off. Laugh my ass off the first time I saw it.
Okay.
And I was sort of disappointed by the fact that people didn't appreciate the idea that went through it. Okay,
True.
because you basically took the puppet and you created this character,
Yeah.
and you made it, and there was this thing which you did, which I don't know why it was funny, but you just said, okay, you're the puppet master and
Yeah.
I will be the puppet. I thought that was brilliant, and
Thank you.
I didn't know why is it that the audience couldn't appreciate that.
Okay, so let me just to give the listeners some context.
Yeah, sorry.
I have this set that I've been performing where I have a sock puppet and I sort of speak to the sock puppet, and I mean, spoiler alert, this is a sock puppet that can't speak. So it's just me rambling with the sock puppet. So yeah, addressing your question. So I've been thinking about why it doesn't work in a lot of places. It's because the joke works on two layers. One, the fact that there is something called puppetry where people speak and a character moves, and number two, how puppets themselves work, which is through ventriloquism. And a lot of places, and I've spoken to audience about this, people don't understand the concept of ventriloquism to begin with.
Okay.
Okay, which is why when I say, okay, you are the puppet, be the puppeteer, and I be the puppet, people don't get.
Okay.
Because they're like, what is this thing? Why is... And also, one more thing is, it seems very tackily done because I have a very half-made sock puppet. I'm just putting it on, and it's part of the joke. It's part of something I like to do, and something I would laugh at if somebody did that on stage. So people just think I'm nervous on stage when I'm doing this, and I have no jokes.
See, this me and Jagan had spoken about also in the last podcast.
Yeah,
where we spoke about the way you act on stage, and because of the shtick or the
Yeah.
persona that you use, people mistake your
Exactly.
the way you think about comedy. So what I want to ask is, have you figured out, or like, have you thought about how you can reach to the audience with the
The
sort of
style.
with the style that you're doing?
One of the things that I'm definitely consciously trying to do is I'm still very nervous on stage, and that's part of my persona because most of my jokes revolve around how I'm either nervous or how I can't tell a joke or whatever. So now I'm doing it more confidently. Like if I'm nervous, I'm confidently nervous on stage. Like I want to show people that this isn't just something that I'm putting up for stage. This is me. This is who I am. This is me. I just go on stage and I ramble and I just say random stuff. That's just me. That's who I am. So I try and do an exaggerated version when I'm on
Like
stage.
more grander.
Yeah,
like
more grander.
Okay.
Like for example, if you take Bo Burnham, for example, he has a very weird style which he confidently does.
Yeah.
Which is why it works for a lot of people.
And I also think for him it's all about setup.
Yeah.
It has to be about that setup.
It's grander than just a comedian telling a joke.
Exactly. And honestly, for me right now, I've been watching a lot of Bo Burnham, and I'm starting to think that he isn't a comedian, like in the
True.
purest sense, because for him it's all about performance.
Yes.
Everything he does is performance.
Yes.
He even talked about this in
Yes. I think in the
Just Happy
comedians
or
comedian
So Happy or something.
comedian podcast as well.
Yeah, in a couple of podcasts also he talks about, and he made an interesting point in one of his specials,
Okay.
and it was very interesting.
Which one?
The recent one, Happy.
So happy. No, what is
Not
it?
So Happy.
So happy. No, I remember this. Make happy.
Make Happy. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Wow. But it was brilliant. But there was this part towards the end where he puts the lights
Yeah.
on, and the audience is shown. He's also there on stage, and he's just talking to them.
Yeah.
And he talks about how everybody is just like his he first started off by talking about his style. He said that it's all about performance, and
Mm-mm.
that's all I know. How can you make jokes about being performing? Sorry, and he kept on, and towards the end, he just said like I feel like I don't deserve any of this because we are just constantly bombarded with entertainment and media, just showing this over and over and over again. How is it that he can be truly happy with his style when he realizes that people are just consuming for the sake of consuming?
That's that is really deep.
Yeah, it was so deep,
Uh,
and like at one point, I'm just thinking about how is it that, like, this is a question that we need to ask ourselves: is that how is it? How do we really know that this is the art form, or this is the thing that we wanted to say is pure, or this is what it is true about?
hmm.
I don't think we'll ever come to that point in comedy where I can tell with 100% of my heart that this is something that has complete 100% original thought, and I did it for the sake of my art and not for the sake of audience.
True. I don't think there is. I mean, I'm sure you have. I mean, I don't agree with your second point, which is you're not doing it for the sake of yourself, but also halfway somewhere it's for the audience.
It's more like
I'm
I think that it's always that give and take with
I'm
them.
pretty sure you have bits where you've been on open mics and you did it only for yourself. I'm pretty sure you. I have bits like that,
Yeah, no, no,
and
I
you have
agree.
bits.
I agree. Right, like right now, what I really want to do is I like the whole concept of being uncomfortable, the whole concept of just saying fucked up shit and like emotional shit,
Yeah,
because I feel like
that
that is like it's such a strong feeling that people will react to it.
true. And the thing is, from your comedy at least, you have certain moments of brilliance where you really say really fucked up shit, which is honestly so true. And the thing is, when you do something else, like a smaller bit, which is just a joke for joke's sake,
Mm,
I can tell that you're faking it.
mm,
Like you're faking an emotion or you're being superficial about it. And there are very few comics I personally think who can actually go on stage, even if you're not great at this moment, you're still being original, you're still being emotional, you're being vulnerable on stage, which is not a lot things a lot of people can do, because a lot of people including myself go up on stage just to tell jokes. There aren't a lot of people who go on stage to emotionally, weigh themselves down or just be open about stuff.
yeah, but and I keep thinking about why I do that or why do other comics do that.
Okay.
Being vulnerable is itself very funny.
Mm-mm.
But for you who like you just can't like I don't know if it's a can't or not. Like, do you feel like you would ever come to a point where you can emotionally like you can vent out?
The thing is, I have done that in the past. It's just that it's not a form that a lot of people recognize. Like for example, if the primitives, I mean not primitive, the most definitive, the norm would be to go and rant on stage.
Mm.
Like I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. The thing is, I'm not. It's not that I'm not comfortable. I also think about the fact that even if it's just an open mic, there are still people present. It's still a show,
Mm.
which is what a lot of comics I feel forget.
Mm.
Like for they tell bad jokes. I mean, okay, anyway, I'm digressing, but I'm just saying I still think of it as a show. So where do I meet the show and where do I fulfill my emotional need? Halfway is what I think about. So I've done a lot of ranting in the past. It's just that it's not in a form that you recognize,
Okay.
or I mean not you, an audience recognizes, I guess.
So, okay, I think we've like gone
Yeah.
way too past this. I'm very sorry for the rambling.
That's okay.
If you guys are still listening, please stay
Hey,
tuned. We tend to ramble when we start talking
we
about
both
comedy.
have faces for podcasting. Yeah.
Shit, no. Wow, that got too real too quickly.
It's okay. It's
Okay.
cool. It happens.
So I actually want to talk to you about the style
Okay.
called being meta.
Okay.
So because honestly, I've tried understanding it, and
Okay.
I get
Why
the
something is funny,
why
but
something is
but you
funny.
don't find it funny yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly the question.
I yeah.
So for the listeners, could you like explain what being meta is?
Okay. Being meta, for instance, is when you have something, when you have a book, for instance, and the book tells a story. A meta book would tell a story about the book telling a story. Or for example, a meta film would be a film about making a film or about a film itself. There are a lot of movies. I don't know, even in Tamil, for example, Jigritanda. I don't
Okay.
know if you've seen
I've
that.
seen
The
Jiggy
second
Thunder.
half of that is a meta film where
Okay.
they're making a film.
Okay.
I mean, it's not exactly meta because they
Meta.
don't really break any walls or anything. And also, meta, for instance, breaks the fourth wall, which is the wall between the artist and the audience. And I do that on a lot of occasions where I don't just tell stories, but I try to involve the audience in the and make sure the audience influences what I'm saying.
Okay. So,
That's an active thing I try to do.
so like when you say breaking the fourth wall,
Yeah.
it is a form of interaction and not just like this is the screen and you're just going out. It's also you.
No, I hardly go out physically because
No,
you
and
would have seen me. Yeah.
like in
Yeah,
the sense for the joke.
it's interaction. For instance, if I'm telling a story and at one point where I expect a laugh, for instance, I don't get a laugh, I would change the story in such a way that it doesn't pander, but it sort of sets with the mood of the audience. Like I would change the story completely. I would improvise to because I think it's hard to explain how exactly I do it, but when I don't get a laugh, I try to, weigh in the audience's influence. I'm like, okay, you know what, you're not laughing, so I'm going to tell you a really sad story, and I'll tell a story about how my dog died, even though I don't have a dog, and just for the sake of it, I do that.
Okay. So,
For me,
so
it's all about form.
it's all about form for you. It's all
Yeah.
about form. So, why is it that meta was something that you like? I think, like looking at you, I know it's very stereotypical, but every time I look at you, I feel like this is who you are. Like
Yeah.
you just like talking about stuff that is a little above people's heads.
I mean, I've been.
Like,
I guess if you. I mean, I've ever since I started writing, I've always been attracted to this sort of writing, where I write about writing. But now that I mean, somewhere along the way, I also figured that it's just again intellectual masturbation. You aren't really redeeming an audience. You aren't really giving the reader something they care about, or
it's very creepy that you're so self-aware
yeah, I
about
know.
this.
It's,
So is that also something that your work like? Is this like something like your? Is this like a mental block or is this like?
it's
Is it just like a mechanism for you? What
it's
is
a
this?
mechanism for me.
So it's just a coping mechanism.
Yeah,
Like you
it's a
just don't. You just to keep yourself grounded.
Yes, because
Okay.
I'm hyper aware, to be honest. And thing is, I like being hyper aware because otherwise I feel like I might just go off the handle a little too soon.
Okay.
So I need to be hyper aware. I need to know that okay, this is who I am. I'm super insignificant. I need to know that, but at the same time, I am contributing something in the smallest sense. So anyway, coming back to
No, this is just wow.
okay, anyway, so coming back to meta. The thing is, when I started writing, I used to write a lot of meta stuff and I loved it. But the thing is, I also realized that people don't, like when you're telling a story, when you're writing something, you want to give something people care about, right? When you do meta, you don't really give them that. You're just showing somebody that you're super clever, which is not
Exactly.
really a good place to be in. So right now, when I'm writing, I'm trying to, strike a balance between telling a story and doing it the way I want to do it. So I mean, I'm sort of getting there. I feel like it'll take me at least a few years for
For
me
it
to
to
strike that.
strike that
Yeah,
chord. Yeah.
far from being perfect.
And I don't think like another thing that I need to know is do you find that you're being bogged down here when it comes to the audiences when it comes to your material? Because a lot of times I've seen certain bits of yours and I'm like I keep thinking in the back of my mind like it could be pushed.
Yeah.
Like I think if you just pushed in a little more about for that envelope, maybe they would see the sincerity of what you're doing.
The thing is, again, I've been a lot of times. I mean, I can't say I've been disappointed. I've been sad on a lot of occasions because comedians themselves don't understand what I'm trying. I'm not playing holier than thou. It's just that I like that kind of stuff because in the US, in the UK, where comedy has been around for 70, 80 years, people have all obviously got to postmodern, postmodern. And I've been attracted by that style, and I completely get why Indian audiences don't exactly, connect to that style because comedy has only been around for what 7, 8 years
Yes,
here,
yeah.
and in Chennai, what 3 years.
Yeah.
So modern itself hasn't stand-up comedy isn't mainstream yet for postmodern stand-up comedy to work. I completely get why that happens, but at the same time, I don't want to, let go of what I want to do.
So, but that's the problem now.
Yeah.
We've come to a point where, like, I want to see the business side of being a comedian. I want to grow as a comedian more and more,
True.
and I think it'll be very difficult for a lot of us.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not even close to getting there.
So we all know this, but
Yes.
and we see all these big names out there, and the sort of style they have is obviously their own. It's their
Yeah.
own take and all of that. But you know, to some extent, a lot of that is a formula. I don't know if it's a right
I
word.
mean, I
It's
yeah,
sort of formulaic, I feel.
it works big for a certain reason.
It works for a certain reason, and it's not because they haven't worked out their jokes. It's obviously because they've kinked out their jokes. They made them all work and all of that. But I feel now that more and more comedians are coming up, and we have YouTube and we have all of these sites
Yeah,
that show us so much
give you
amazing comedy.
platform. True.
Uh, do you think it'll come to a point where we won't be able to grow, like just because it's not our time here?
Again, I think it's subjective. For instance, Stuart Lee is obviously not as big as Dane Cook,
Yeah.
right? But again, he's content with that. He has a certain audience who likes what he does, and I think that's okay. It's in every art form that you take, there is always going to be a mainstream and there is going to be a counterculture. There's going to be sort of a subculture, a niche where people are doing something different. And that is never going to become mainstream, because if that becomes mainstream, then there's going to be something else that becomes non-mainstream.
Non-mainstream.
So, and I think it's completely okay as long as people know that, as long as people know what you're doing. And if people go, okay, that's not my cup of tea, I'm okay with watching this. As long as that happens, I think it's totally fine. I think it'll take a few more years for Biswa, even for instance.
Yeah.
A lot of comedians, a lot of people consider him a little alternate, little offbeat. But he still becomes sort of a mainstream name right now, a household name of sorts. And I do think the next kind of subculture, which is super small, which is like super meta, self-aware comedian, will always have a smaller audience.
But this is again, as I guess, is true even for comedians abroad, man.
Anywhere.
By any chance, did you get to watch Reggie Watts' special?
Yes, I loved Reggie Watts. I haven't seen a special. I've seen a lot of other stuff of this.
Go watch Special. It's fucking brilliant. And he talked about this as well. He said Kevin Hart can only do stadiums now. He
Okay.
can't do small rooms
Okay.
because he's there now. How can he do
A
a
small
smaller
room.
room again, ever again? But him, he sold out three small medium sized rooms, and I thought that was brilliant because he's basically saying, you know what, I have my niche.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is what I think is okay. When you find your niche, you're going to give them something. You're going to keep pushing the envelope with that niche, which I think is totally fine.
But then it comes to the question of and I think we need to talk about it, is like, is that sort of sustainable as an artist? Do you think that can be sustainable for someone like you or me who's just starting out to
Okay.
have, maybe let's say that we are able to get like a couple of rooms out, okay?
Okay.
But do you think that is sustainable for us? Because I don't, like, a lot of times I keep thinking like the only way I'm going to reach out is through the online medium, and that's why I'm doing podcasts, I'm trying to do series and
Yeah.
all of these things. But do you think as a comedian in India, to grow, you need to change your style, or do you feel like you can still stick with your style and make it?
The thing is, I think it's foolish if you want to be like, hey, this is my style. If you like it, do watch me. Otherwise, don't. On some level, given that again, comedy is only 10 years old in the country itself, you have to compromise on some level. Even though you love doing this, whatever this little niche thing that you found, you still have to compromise to an audience who haven't seen comedy at all. Otherwise, you're just masturbating on the side with nobody to watch or nobody to listen to, which I think is super foolish. And also, one of the things that I am at least working towards over the next 2 years is again putting up a show of sorts in a more, not a stand up, but more a performance art kind of thing, where because I love doing the stuff that I do, but at the same time, there aren't a lot of people who watch it in the stand up comedy sense. I want to do a sort of like a 45 minutes or 1 hour show, take it to a smaller fringe festival like a South Africa or a Edinburgh or whatever, where I want to do a little show to see if this stuff even works anywhere with people, know. I don't know. It's just one of the things that I'm working
that you want to
towards.
work towards. But
Yeah.
that would be great to see later on.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about. And wow,
Okay. I didn't know.
I didn't know that it was
Neither
going.
did I.
But it has been a very interesting
Yes, me too.
conversation with you,
Yes.
and I wish we had more time to talk.
I know.
about this.
We can
But
do that once.
but
we
we'll do it
start recording.
again once more.
Done.
We'll
Let's
be
do
this.
that. Also, I mean, before we go, I just want to let you know that even though right now there are not a lot of people listening and all that, I'm really happy that somebody is doing this because again, comedy is an art form. In India, at least, people haven't perceived it the way that all of us are perceiving it. Again, it comes from a place of privilege. It comes from a place of some sort of intellect, which I think is again privilege to call it that itself.
Yes.
But I'm happy that you're doing it.
Thank you so much, Bhargav.
Yes, thank you.
But before we leave, just I always ask this question, and it's simply because it is about faith.
Okay.
And the question is very simple.
Okay.
What do you believe when you go up on stage? What do you believe that is yours that you can use to perform? That if I do this, I know that I will go out happy or I will go out satisfied.
Oh my God! You said it's a simple question.
It is sort of simple. It's a little vague, I understand. But what is it that you think is like basically what is your strength? What source do you go to just have a good show?
For me, it's again, I listen to my head in the sense that a lot of comedians speak from their head. I mean, they just speak. All of us just speak out. We don't memorize and we don't talk. But for me, if I talk things which oppose what I'm speaking of, like when I'm speaking about something, my head says something else, and I make that as part of the joke. A lot of people aren't aware enough for them to. I mean, I'm not again. You know what? I'm not being modest or whatever, but I think I can channel my inner monologue into speaking things that again, it's a style of it's a tough question to answer. I'm sorry, I haven't been very articulate. Trust me, I am.
I love that's how we're going to end this podcast
Yes.
with him saying, "I am a
Like a pirate.
But I am so sorry that it's so hot here.
It's okay.
But it's been a fun time.
Yes, me too.
And I hope that you do come back for
Yes,
more
more.
podcasts.
Awesome.
And we keep building listeners and
Yes.
more listeners come in and all of that. So if you guys did like this podcast, please follow it on Facebook at The Faith in Podcast. You can also check out YouTube and Mixcloud. I'll keep the links in the description. Bhargav, do you have any sort of thing that you would like to say? Like, do you have a page?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter, I guess. It's CFL Lightsabers.
I will make sure to put that in the link in the description
Yeah.
as well. He says meta shit all the fucking time. It's
Yay.
awesome. And I know I should have said this at the start, but you did write for Black Sheep,
Yes.
which is an amazing. By the way, I loved watching that show.
Thank you.
It was
Thank you
wonderfully
so much.
done.
Thank you so much. Watch it if you guys haven't. I mean, I'm sure.
What is the YouTube link?
It's called Rasclass, youtube.com/channel Rasclass.
Yeah, guys, I have big names in the house.
Watch the show if you haven't. It's about stand-up again.
Exactly, and what better reason? I'll put that also in the
Thank you
link
so
in the
much.
description. And that's all, guys. So at the end of every
Yes,
show,
I know,
will
I've
say,
seen this.
Oh, awesome!
3,
So,
2, 1, roll
roll
the
the outro. Thank you so much.
Awesome.